played out was quite extraordinary and pretty terrifying to see that the New York Post.
Well, although guys, come on, look, tech companies make mistakes the way publishing companies make.
But that wasn't a mistake, Cara, was it?
I mean,
it wasn't a.
Well, no,
they
let me
actually. Hang on. Hang on.
This was an absolute massacre, people. This random libtard woman right here gets absolutely slaughtered by Dave Smith and Tim Pool on the Piers Morgan Uncensored podcast. They're discussing Mark Zuckerberg doing away with the fact-checking system on Facebook and introducing a community note style fact-checking similar to X. Let's see Tim Pool and Dave Smith eat this woman alive.
Both Facebook and the FBI interfered in the 2020 election on the Joe Rogan Experience. And, you know, for all of the news coverage, and to some degree rightfully so, over the last 4 years about January 6th, about some of Trump's claims of the election that him and his lawyers were really never able to demonstrate at all. But how about that admission that the FBI came and told Facebook, be prepared for a Russian dump that's coming soon. And then when the laptop came out, you have 50 plus intelligence officers signing on to this letter saying that this is the Russian disinformation. And he admitted to censoring people for that. I mean, this is like blatant election interference by the FBI and one of the biggest tech companies out there. I mean, you know, I would think if you're going to reverse that, it would also come along with like an apology and some admission of what you were a part of. You know, he says he created the site to give people a voice. You robbed your fellow Americans of their voice in a very important, crucial point in American history.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was a New York Post columnist at the time that all went down with their exclusive on Hunter Biden's laptop, which turned out to be a completely genuine story, and certainly wasn't Russian disinformation. And the way that all played out was quite extraordinary and pretty terrifying to see that the New York Post.
Well, although guys, come on, look, tech companies make mistakes the way publishing companies make.
But that wasn't a mistake, Cara, was it? I mean, it wasn't a.
Well, you know, no,
they
let
actually.
me just
Hang on. Hang on. My point. They actually banned the New York Post X account completely. Completely.
Yes, they did.
If they didn't take down their true story. I mean, that is the most blatant attack on free speech I've ever seen.
But it's not free speech. It's not a government institution. Companies do that. Disney didn't put out a movie in China because the Chinese.
It doesn't make it right, though, does it?
Of course not. But it's not, you're equating Facebook. You're equating Facebook or Twitter with the government. It is not a public square.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
To be very clear, I certainly was not. Listen, I was not equating Facebook and the FBI, and I think it is reasonable to point out that a lot of these big tech companies were under duress really since Donald Trump won in 2016. All the heads were hauled in front of Congress and threatened up and down if they didn't get this misinformation problem under control. But is the claim here that those intelligence officers made a mistake and really thought this was Russian disinformation?
Here's what I'm saying,
and then realized it was Hunter Biden's laptop?
Our government should be talking. Go ahead.
Tim,
Man, this woman's getting slaughtered. She's getting fed to the wolves. What do you think so far? Sign off in the comment section below. Smash that like button. Let's continue.
Let Cara finish her point, then I'll bring you in, Tim.
The government should constantly be talking to lots of companies because there are disinformation campaigns from Iran, Russia. You can't pretend that China's not all up in our grill. You just can't. You just can't. And there should be discussions between government and companies. They're going to occur. By the way, they've been occurring since the beginning of time, way back when, go watch Oppenheimer. There's discussions happening all the time on all levels between companies. The question is, what is pressure and what is important discussions that these companies, because they are at the nexus of all these information systems, should be having, and what are the guardrails against government overreaching? I am all for stopping government overreach. I did a great interview with Edward Snowden about this issue. Perhaps the way he did it wasn't right, but what the government was doing was wrong. They fixed it. There should be guardrails around these things. The question is how it's done. But what happens is there's a fever dream on the left and a fever dream on the right of what's occurring, and it's a little less nefarious. I think that Facebook, unfortunately, occupies a far too important role in news distribution as a kind of a monopoly. And that's the problem we have going forward. It's a private company that's determining what everybody sees. And they're going to not just make mistakes. We're at the behest of Mark Zuckerberg's obviously incompetent ability to decide what's right and wrong. Or should he, by the way?
Let me bring Tim in. You've been waiting patiently. Tim, your response.
Free speech is a principle. When we say that Facebook X, Twitter, whatever platform is silencing free speech, we are not talking about the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects multiple rights, of which one of those is free speech. So this constant conflation of a private company isn't violating your First Amendment. I'm not going to bring up the First Amendment. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to go on a platform, I'm going to express my ideas and share news. And if they silence me, they are violating my free speech. Now, more importantly, this argument about, you mentioned there's a fever dream on the left and the right. I want to make one thing clear. Mark Zuckerberg coming out and saying that now we're going to have more free speech or whatever it is he's trying to say, this is not a pendulum swing. This is not the weather vane. Certainly, I do believe the man is just bending the knee to whatever power structure he sees. But if we were actually going to see a pendulum swing in the other direction, they would keep the fact-checking program, ban the liberal news outlets, and only allow conservative outlets to fact-check posts on Facebook. When you look at all sides, when you look at ground news, the majority of U.S. fact-checkers had a liberal bias, and only one, which was associated with the Daily Caller, was considered to be conservative-leaning. And when numerous outlets on the right made attempts to get access through Pointer to the fact-checking system, they were denied that. So now, once again, what do we see? Real quick, too, another point. Back to the First Amendment issue, I just want to add, the government had backdoors into X and Facebook where we actually got to click the link and go to the login portal for the federal government to go into Facebook to flag posts. And there was an instance where if you said the name Eric Charamella on YouTube or Facebook, your post would be inexplicably deleted. And everybody knew that was happening. And this is real clear politics that it broke the reporting on Eric Charamella. So what we're looking at since Elon took over Twitter and turned it into X, we have consistently seen a dominant liberal or Democrat party bias on these platforms. And when the problem is, quote unquote, resolved, you get neutrality. There's been no circumstance where we have seen a right bias or a conservative bias or a pendulum swing in the other direction. So Mark Zuckerberg right now is declaring neutrality. He's not actually swearing fealty or kissing the pinky ring of Trump.
Yeah, Tim Pool is right on that. This isn't a swing to the other way from Mark Zuckerberg. This is a more swing toward neutrality where it's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to leave community notes just like on X. Because as Tim Pool pointed out, if this were about swinging it the other way, then Mark Zuckerberg would just start censoring the other way. But it doesn't look like he's going to do that. One thing I want to bring up that no one talks about is how this fact-checking system and this clear media bias, not just from mainstream media, but even on social media, has added to the craziness of people and the delusions of people. Because, when you talk to liberals, you get an air that there's this moral superiority that you get from them. And even that they're more intelligent than you, that they're just better than you. And why wouldn't they think that? Where if on social media, they're always told that they're correct. And they see right-wingers getting censored all the time, which means that it's telling them that right-wingers, or just people that disagree with them, they're just wrong. These are the wrong views to have. And what you believe, those are the correct views to have. And it's easy for people to fall into. When I was a liberal years ago, I fell into that trap too. I thought I believed in all the correct views. Little did I know I was being manipulated and brainwashed. And this whole deal with the fact checkers online and with social media, that has definitely added to the brainwashing and the manipulation. And who knows how long it'll take to undo these effects. Good job here by Dave Smith and Tim Pool telling off this random libtard on the Piers Morgan Show. What do you think about this? Sound off in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel. You'll be helping me out a lot. Smash that like button. If you like Tim Pool, if you like Dave Smith, I got some more goodies for you on the screen to click away and enjoy.